close your eyes. The sea is before you. It stretches without end, a horizon where the blue of the water melts into the soft haze of the sky. The waves do not hurry. They roll and fall with a rhythm older than memory itself. They whisper, and they sing. This is the setting of our story. Not a single place, not a single city, but the endless expanse of the sea, dotted with islands, harbors, and distant shores. The Odyssey begins, and ends, and always returns, to this eternal sea. Imagine yourself there, standing on a quiet beach, as the first stars appear above. The sand is cool beneath your feet, and the salt in the air rests lightly on your lips. The water comes forward, then withdraws, in a patient heartbeat. You are at the edge of the ancient Greek world. You are at the threshold of the greatest journey ever told. The Odyssey is not merely a tale of battles and monsters. It is not only the voyage of a hero across storm and shadow. It is a story of longing, of absence, of home. It is the human voice, stretched across 10 years of wandering, echoing across islands, through storms, through palaces, through caves. It is a voice that belongs to Odysseus, but also to all of us. Homer, the poet of the Greeks, begins not with triumph, but with yearning. The Iliad had sung of war, of rage, of the clash of bronze and fire. But the Odyssey sings of return, of the quiet struggle to reach one's hearth, of patience and cunning, of the fragile line between hope and despair. As you listen, let your mind drift gently, like a ship upon calm waters. Let the details come slowly, one after another, as though carved on the air. For the Odyssey is not a hurried story. It is as vast as the sea itself. It flows in waves, circling back, pausing, moving forward again, never in haste, but always in rhythm. The time is after the Trojan War. The great city of Troy has fallen in fire and ruin. The heroes of Greece have begun their journeys home. Some sail easily, some never return at all. And among them, one man is delayed, almost endlessly delayed, by gods and fates and his own restless path. This man is Odysseus, king of Ithaca, husband of Penelope, father of Telemachus, a warrior cleverer than most, favored by Athena, distrusted by Poseidon. He is remembered not only for strength, but for cunning, for the tricks and stratagems that brought Troy to its knees. And yet, his greatest struggle is not war. It is return. It is endurance. It is the long patience of survival, storm after storm, temptation after temptation, until at last the shoreline of home appears. But before we step into his journey, let us pause. Let us see the stage upon which it all unfolds. Picture the world of the ancient Greeks, a necklace of islands scattered across the wine-dark sea. Mountains rise steeply from the water, their slopes clothed in olive trees. Small villages cling to the hillsides. Fishermen mend their nets on the shore. In the distance, goats wander on rocky cliffs, bells echoing in the wind. The people of this world depend on the sea, fear it, and revere it. They sail upon it to trade, to raid, to journey, and to return. The sea is freedom, but also danger. Every voyage begins with prayers, for Poseidon, the earth-shaker, holds power over every wave. A calm sea may be a blessing, a storm may be a punishment. Above all, the sky. A sky vast and clear, filled with constellations that the sailors follow. The Great Bear, never dipping below the horizon. Orion, hunter of the night. The Pleiades, faint and delicate, like drops of light. These stars guide the traveler, but also remind him of how small he is against the cosmos. This is where the Odyssey unfolds. It is not confined to a single kingdom or palace. It stretches across the whole Mediterranean, from the ruins of Troy to the far edges of the known world. Each island is a story. Each shore holds both danger and promise. To listen to the Odyssey is to drift from place to place, like Odysseus himself, never knowing what waits beyond the horizon. You may find hospitality, or betrayal. A feast, or a trap. A welcome, or a curse. The Greeks had a word for this uncertainty, xenia, the sacred code of hospitality. To welcome the stranger was a duty, and to betray that trust was a crime against both man and God. Again and again in the Odyssey, this code is tested. Some hosts honor it. Others exploit it. And Odysseus must navigate these tests as carefully as the storms. Let us linger for a moment on Odysseus himself. He is unlike the other heroes. Achilles, fierce and blazing with rage, had burned across the Iliad like fire. Ajax, mighty but doomed. Agamemnon, proud and heavy with power. Odysseus, however, is not the strongest, nor the fastest. His strength lies in his mind. He is the man of twists and turns, the man who thinks, who plots, who waits, who disguises himself, who bends reality into advantage. And yet, this gift is also his curse. For every escape he finds, another trial awaits him. For every clever victory, a new delay. When Homer sings of him, it is always with both admiration and sorrow. Odysseus is brilliant, but he is never at rest. His cleverness carries him onward, but it also keeps him wandering. Now, imagine again the sea. The ship, carved of wood, with its single sail and oars. The crew, weathered by sun and salt. The prow points forward, but the destination is uncertain. At any moment, the wind may rise. At any moment, the gods may interfere. The Odyssey is not a straight line. It does not move simply from Troy to Ithaca. It spirals, circles, pauses. Just as dreams shift from one image to another, the tale shifts from island to island. You may find yourself in the cave of a giant. You may find yourself in the halls of a goddess. You may find yourself shipwrecked upon unfamiliar shores. And always, Odysseus carries with him the memory of home, Ithaca, rocky, small, but beloved. Home. The word lingers, softly, through every part of the story. For what is a hero, if he does not long for his hearth, his family, his land? The Odyssey reminds us that the truest victory is not conquest, but return. Not triumph in war, but reunion in peace. This is why the tale endures. Not because of monsters or battles, though they are vivid. But because of longing. Because of the image of a man who, after all his victories, after all his losses, still dreams of the quiet shape of his own doorway. And so, as you listen, let yourself drift. The sea is calm. The stars are above. The voice of Homer comes not as a shout, but as a song, steady and unhurried. This is the beginning of the Odyssey. This is the opening of a journey that will wander for years, but always circle back, always return, always point home. The story of the Odyssey does not begin with Odysseus himself. It begins with a boy. A boy standing on the edge of manhood, waiting, watching, hoping. His name is Telemachus, son of Odysseus, son of the king who left when he was only a child, son of a man remembered in stories, but absent in flesh and voice. Telemachus has grown up in a house heavy with absence. His mother, Penelope, is there. Strong, patient, endlessly clever. But her days are filled with sorrow and endurance. Her nights, with tears. For 10 years she waited while the war at Troy raged. And now, for 10 more years, she waits again, uncertain whether her husband still walks the earth. The palace of Ithaca is no longer quiet. It is no longer ruled by order. It has been invaded, not by armies, but by suitors. Men who lounge in its halls, eating and drinking, demanding Penelope choose a new husband. They consume the wealth of Odysseus. They mock his absence. They press, day after day, upon the patience of the queen. And Telemachus watches. He is too young to rule. Too untested to command. Yet he feels the weight of his father's name, and the shadow of his father's absence. Imagine him now. A youth, standing in the doorway of the great hall, listening to the laughter of the suitors. His fists clench, but he says nothing. His eyes wander to the sea, as though it might bring him an answer. How does one become a man, when the father is gone? How does one carry a legacy, when it is only a story? This is Telemachus' burden. This is where the Odyssey truly begins. And then, the gods stir. The goddess Athena, daughter of Zeus, protector of wisdom, sees the boy. She knows the fate of Odysseus is not yet sealed. She knows that patience alone will not shape Telemachus into his father's son. Action is needed. A quest is needed. So she descends. Disguised, as she often is, in the form of a man, Mentes, a trusted family friend. She enters the hall, where the suitors feast and shout, and she speaks to Telemachus with words that kindle something within him. She tells him, to seek his father. To leave Ithaca. To travel across the sea, to the courts of other kings, to ask of news, to gather stories, to find whether Odysseus still lives. For the boy to become a man, he must journey outward. He must move from silence to speech, from shadow to action. Telemachus listens. At first, uncertain. At first, hesitant. But Athena's presence fills him with courage, as though his very heart has been reshaped. That night, he dreams differently. Where once he saw only doubt, now he sees a path. Where once he felt powerless, now he feels the stirring of purpose. And so, as dawn rises, Telemachus begins. Picture the harbor of Ithaca in the soft light of morning. The boats, small but sturdy, rocking gently against the piers. The air, filled with the scent of salt and seaweed. Fishermen moving slowly, their voices low. Telemachus walks there, not as a child, but as one who carries a decision. He gathers companions, loyal and willing to follow. A ship is prepared. Supplies are loaded, bread, wine, water, oil. The sail is lifted. The ropes are untied. The boy leaves the island of his birth, just as his father once did. But unlike his father, his purpose is not war, but search. Not conquest, but understanding. His first journey is to Pylos, the kingdom of wise old Nestor. Nestor, who fought at Troy. Nestor, who saw heroes rise and fall. Nestor, whose words are long and flowing, filled with memory. When Telemachus arrives, Nestor welcomes him. The boy is seated at a feast, treated with honor. Nestor listens, then speaks. He tells of the war, of how the Greeks quarreled, of how each hero met his fate. He recalls Odysseus with respect, remembering his cunning, his leadership, his endurance. But of Odysseus' fate? Nestor cannot say. He does not know. He only knows that the man has not yet returned, and that the sea still holds him somewhere. Yet, even without an answer, Telemachus gains something more. He gains the recognition of a father's friend. He gains words that honor his father's name. He gains a sense of belonging to the great story. From Pylos, he sails to Sparta. The kingdom of Menelaus and Helen, whose faces and fates ignited the war itself. The palace is rich, the halls filled with splendor. Helen, beautiful even after years of sorrow, welcomes him. Menelaus, the red-haired king, greets him. They speak of Odysseus. And here, in Sparta, Telemachus learns more. He hears of his father's struggles, of how he was last seen upon distant shores, still striving, still fighting to return. He learns that Odysseus is alive, though trapped, delayed, withheld from home. For Telemachus, this is more than news. It is hope. It is proof that the father he longs for is not yet lost. Yet even as he travels, Ithaca waits. Back at home, the suitors grow restless. They plot against him. They whisper of ambush, of murder, of ending his line before it truly begins. But the boy, away upon the sea, does not know this yet. He is learning what it means to be his father's son. He is learning what it means to carry both courage and cunning. Pause here. Let the image linger. A youth upon the deck of his ship, the sea stretching before him, the stars beginning to shine above. The air cool. The sail swelling with the wind. His thoughts turning always to one face, one figure, one name, Odysseus. The boy seeks the man. The son seeks the father. And in that seeking, the Odyssey deepens. The tale of Telemachus reminds us that journeys are not only of distance. They are also of spirit. The boy who departs is not the boy who returns. The act of searching itself reshapes him. In this, Telemachus mirrors us all. We all search for what is missing. We all hope for the return of something lost. We all carry questions about who we are, and where we belong. The Odyssey begins with this searching. Not with monsters, nor storms, nor battles, but with the simple, human longing, for a father. The boy's search begins the tale. But the heart of the Odyssey belongs to the father. To the man of twists and turns. To Odysseus. When last the world saw him, he was leaving Troy. The city burned. Its towers fell. The Greeks sailed home, each to his own land. But for Odysseus, the path would not be straight. It would not be short. For 10 years he fought the war. And now, for 10 more, he must fight the sea. Picture him now. A man no longer young, but not yet old. His body scarred by battles. His eyes sharp, restless, filled with both cunning and weariness. Odysseus, king of Ithaca. Husband of Penelope. Father of Telemachus. And yet, prisoner of the waves. The gods are not of one mind. Some favor him. Some oppose him. Above all stands Poseidon, lord of the sea, wrathful and unyielding. For Odysseus once blinded his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus, and from that act sprang a hatred that would follow him across every wave. Odysseus' voyage is no simple wandering. It is a trial. A punishment. A test. He begins his wandering with his men. Companions who fought beside him at Troy. Companions who trust him, follow him, and depend upon him. Yet they, too, are mortal. They, too, are tempted. They, too, fall. Each land they reach holds danger. Each shore hides a trial. The first is the land of the lotus eaters. Here, flowers grow, not ordinary flowers, but blossoms whose nectar steals the memory of home. Whoever tastes them forgets his purpose, forgets his longing, forgets even his own name. Some of Odysseus' men, weary from toil, taste. Their eyes grow heavy. Their voices soften. They smile with a strange, dreamy peace. But Odysseus does not yield. He drags them back to the ships, ties them down, and commands the sails to be raised. For he knows, forgetting may seem gentle, but it is death of another kind. The man who forgets home will never return. Next comes the land of the Cyclopes. Here dwell giants with one eye, herdsmen without law, without counsel, without order. They live as they please, taking what they wish. Odysseus and his men enter the cave of one such giant, Polyphemus. Inside, they find food and milk, cheese and meat. They take, they feast. But when the Cyclops returns, the cave becomes a prison. He rolls a great stone before the door. He seizes men in his hands, devours them alive. Here, brute strength alone will not save. Here, Odysseus must be more than strong. He must be clever. He speaks to the Cyclops, not with anger, but with cunning. He offers him wine, strong and sweet. The giant drinks deeply, unthinking. His head grows heavy. His speech slurs. He asks the name of the man who has given him such delight. And Odysseus answers. No one. That night, while Polyphemus sleeps, Odysseus and his men take a sharpened stake, heat it in the fire, and drive it into the single eye. The giant bellows, thrashes, roars in pain. Other Cyclopes gather, calling to him, "Who has hurt you?" And he answers, "No one." So they turn away, leaving him to his agony. At dawn, Odysseus and his men escape, clinging to the bellies of the giant's sheep. As the blind Polyphemus lets his flocks out to pasture, they pass unseen beneath his groping hands. The ships are reached. The sails are raised. The men breathe again. But in triumph, Odysseus makes a mistake. He cannot leave in silence. From the deck of his ship, he calls out his name, boasting, declaring who has blinded the Cyclops. And thus, Polyphemus calls upon his father, Poseidon, lord of the sea. He prays for vengeance. And Poseidon listens. From that moment on, every wave becomes an enemy. Every wind, a snare. Let the sea swell in the mind. The voyage continues. The years stretch on. The men grow weary. They reach Aeolia, the land of the winds. Here, the kindly king gives Odysseus a gift, a bag, tied and sealed, in which are bound all the winds of the world, save one, the west wind, which will carry them home. For 9 days they sail. Ithaca comes into sight. They see its shores, its cliffs, its beaches. Home is before them. But while Odysseus sleeps, his men, curious and suspicious, open the bag. And at once, the winds are freed. A storm rises. The sea hurls them back, far from home, far from hope. What is closer than home? What is crueler than losing it again? From here, they wander still. The Laestrygonians come next. Giants again, but fiercer, more savage. They attack, they hurl stones, they sink ships. Only Odysseus' vessel escapes, the others swallowed by the sea. The company dwindles. The losses grow. Yet Odysseus endures. Then, the island of Circe. Here dwells a sorceress of beauty and power. She welcomes the men, offers them food and drink. But the food is bewitched. The wine is poisoned. Those who eat are transformed into animals, pigs, snuffling, helpless. But Odysseus is not ensnared. With the aid of Hermes, who gives him a protective herb, he resists. He confronts Circe, and instead of becoming her victim, he becomes her equal, even her lover. A year passes in her halls, a year of rest, of feasting, of forgetfulness. Yet at last, the call of home cannot be silenced. Odysseus prepares again to leave. Circe tells him of what must come. He must descend, not to another island, not to another shore, but to the realm of the dead. He must speak with the prophet Tiresias, who alone can tell him how to reach Ithaca. So Odysseus sails to the edge of the world. There, in darkness, he performs the rites, pours libations, calls upon the shades. And they come. The spirits of the dead. Pale. Silent. Hungry for blood. Among them, he sees faces he knew. His mother, Anticlea, whom he left alive but now finds among the dead. His comrades from Troy. And Tiresias himself, who tells him he will return. But only through suffering. He will reach home. But only alone. And even then, peace will not be simple. Odysseus listens. His heart heavy, his spirit sharpened. He knows now the price that awaits. Yet he sails onward still. For though the sea is vast, though the gods are divided, though every island hides danger, his heart is fixed on one image. The hearth of Ithaca. The face of Penelope. The voice of Telemachus. And so, the wanderings continue. Through Sirens whose voices lure sailors to death. Through Scylla and Charybdis, monsters of rock and whirlpool. Through tempests and shipwrecks. Through the island of Helios, where men, driven by hunger, slaughter the sacred cattle, and are struck down by the wrath of the sun god. One by one, his companions perish. Ship by ship, man by man, they fall. Until at last, Odysseus is alone. Alone, drifting on the sea. Alone, clinging to wreckage. Alone, carried by the currents to an unknown shore. There, on the island of Ogygia, dwells the nymph Calypso. Beautiful, immortal, timeless. She takes him in. She heals his wounds. She offers him not only shelter, but eternity. She promises him, "Stay, and you will never age. Stay, and you will never die. Stay, and you will know only pleasure." And yet, Odysseus longs for more. Not immortality. Not endless delight. But home. Year after year, he remains with Calypso. Year after year, he endures her embrace. But within his heart burns the single flame that cannot be extinguished, Ithaca. It is here, stranded on Calypso's shore, that we pause. Here, at the turning point of endurance. Here, where Odysseus is tested not by monsters or storms, but by temptation itself. To accept ease, or to fight for return. To remain forever, or to hope for home. This is the heart of Odysseus' survival. Not strength alone. Not cunning alone. But the refusal to forget. Close your eyes now. The sea still surrounds Odysseus. The waves rise and fall. The winds come and go. But within his mind, another battlefield awakens. For memory, too, is a journey. And sometimes, the longest journey of all. Long before the wanderings, there was Troy. For 10 years the Greeks laid siege. 10 years of camps, of tents, of weary waiting. 10 years of battles fought at the walls, of warriors clashing at the gates. Odysseus was there from the beginning. Not the mightiest, Achilles claimed that. Not the oldest, Nestor held that role. But Odysseus was something different. Not the strongest, not the swiftest, but the cleverest. The one whose mind could weave what others could not. It was Odysseus who counseled patience when others despaired. Odysseus who quelled quarrels, who argued with kings, who held the army together. And when cunning was needed, it was Odysseus who devised it. Picture now the endless camps before Troy. Thousands of men, thousands of fires. Smoke rising, songs echoing, quarrels breaking out. The weary long wait of soldiers far from home. Odysseus walks among them, a leader not distant, but close. He speaks to the men. He calms them when their spirits falter. He reminds them of their oath, of their purpose, of the wives and children waiting beyond the sea. And yet, his own heart aches for Ithaca. Even then, even at Troy, he longed for Penelope, for the small rocky kingdom he called his own. Then comes the embassy to Achilles. When the mightiest warrior withdrew from battle, enraged by insult, it was Odysseus who went to plead with him. Odysseus who spoke carefully, weighing each word, trying to bend the proud heart of the son of Peleus. But Achilles refused. His anger was too great. His pride too deep. And so the war dragged on, heavier, bloodier. The memories blur together now, as Odysseus drifts half asleep upon Calypso's shore. The clash of bronze against bronze. The cries of men struck down. The dust, the fire, the endless shouting. He remembers comrades who will never return. Ajax, mighty in battle, brought low not by sword but by sorrow. Agamemnon, King of kings, whose return brought not peace but betrayal and death. Menelaus, forever chasing the shadow of Helen. So many names, so many faces. Each one carved into memory. Each one a wound. But above all, he remembers the end. The final night. The night of the horse. For 10 years the Greeks could not breach Troy's walls. For 10 years they fought, and bled, and died, but the gates stood fast. It was Odysseus who conceived the plan. A gift. A trick. A hollow wooden horse, vast as a tower, filled with hidden warriors. The Greeks pretended to sail away, leaving it behind as an offering. The Trojans, rejoicing, dragged it within their city. They feasted. They celebrated. They thought the war was over. But in the dark of night, the horse opened. Odysseus, and the chosen few within, crept out. They opened the gates. They lit the fires. They let in the returning Greek army. And Troy, proud Troy, fell. Now, in the silence of the sea, Odysseus wonders, was it victory, or was it ruin? For he remembers the screams of that night. The flames leaping from roof to roof. The children crying. The old cut down. The temples desecrated. Victory came, but at a cost. And perhaps, he thinks, the gods never forgave them. Perhaps Poseidon's wrath, Athena's silence, the storms that follow him even now, perhaps all these are not chance, but punishment for Troy. Odysseus lies awake on Calypso's shore. The stars above him. The waves whispering around him. And the ghosts of Troy pressing close. The war may be over. The Greeks may have returned home. The walls of Troy may lie in ash. But for Odysseus, it is not finished. It lives on in every dream. It lives on in every scar. It lives on in every mile of sea that keeps him from Ithaca. Thus the war after the war continues. Not with spears and swords, but within the heart. For no man leaves Troy unchanged. No man escapes the weight of what he has seen. And Odysseus, clever though he is, cannot escape memory. It clings to him. It shapes him. It haunts him. And so we leave him here. Not on a battlefield, not at sea, but in the quiet war within. The war of memory. The war that has no end. The sea is endless. The journey has been long. And now, at last, Ithaca waits. But homecoming is never simple. The years have passed. The halls are not as he left them. The faces have changed. And danger waits within his very house. Odysseus does not arrive as a king. He does not step proudly ashore, clad in bronze, his name on the lips of heralds. No. He comes quietly. Secretly. Wrapped in rags. Bent as an old beggar. It is Athena who guides him. Athena, the grey-eyed goddess, who has walked beside him from Troy to this final shore. She whispers caution. She veils him in disguise. For the suitors are many, and they are proud, and they have devoured his wealth, and courted his wife, and plotted against his son. If Odysseus reveals himself too soon, he will be struck down. But if he waits, if he watches, if he learns who is loyal and who is false, then justice can come. So he walks the island as a stranger. No one knows him. The dogs bark at him. The servants turn away. Only a few eyes linger with suspicion, wondering if this beggar is more than he seems. First, he comes to the hut of Eumaeus. Faithful Eumaeus, the swineherd. Poor in possessions, but rich in loyalty. Eumaeus does not know him, cannot see through Athena's disguise, yet he welcomes the beggar with warmth. He offers him food. He offers him shelter. He speaks kindly of his absent lord, mourning the long years of his master's wandering. And Odysseus listens. His heart aches at the loyalty of this humble man. In silence, he stores the knowledge away. Here is one he can trust. Then comes Telemachus. The son he left behind as an infant. Now grown. Now strong. Now uncertain, standing on the edge of manhood, searching for the father he has never known. Father and son meet, yet not openly. Athena guides the moment. At first, Telemachus sees only a ragged beggar. But when Athena lifts the veil, when Odysseus' form is revealed, the two embrace at last. Tears fall freely. Years of absence dissolve in a single moment of recognition. Telemachus clings to him. Odysseus holds him tightly. A bond broken by time is reforged. The house has been filled with enemies, but now father and son are united. Together, they will plan. Together, they will strike. And so Odysseus waits. Still in disguise. Still watching. He enters his own halls as a beggar, mocked by the suitors who feast at his tables, who drink his wine, who laugh at his rags. They jeer at him. They strike him. They toss scraps of food. But Odysseus endures. His eyes see all. His ears hear all. Each insult is stored. Each cruelty noted. For the moment will come when beggar becomes king, when mockery becomes terror, when arrows will fly. And yet, amid the cruelty, there are flickers of light. A nurse, old, faithful Euryclea, who tends to the stranger. And as she washes his feet, her hands pass over a scar. The scar he earned long ago, from a boar's tusk in his youth. She knows it at once. She gasps. She sees the truth. But Odysseus presses her to silence. Not yet. Not now. The time is not ready. And Penelope. Faithful Penelope, who has waited these long years, weaving and unweaving her loom, keeping the suitors at bay with her endless trick of the shroud. She speaks with the beggar. She questions him. She listens to his tales. Something within her stirs, some echo of recognition, some whisper of familiarity. But she does not yet know. She cannot yet believe. And so she waits. As Odysseus waits. As the gods wait. As the story itself holds its breath. Night falls on Ithaca. The halls grow quiet. The suitors, drunk with wine, stumble into sleep. And Odysseus, in rags, lies awake, planning. The bow rests in its case. The arrows are not yet strung. But soon. Very soon. For the homecoming is not yet complete. To return is not simply to arrive. To return is to reclaim. To return is to set right what has been broken. To return, is to be tested once more. And Odysseus, who has endured storms, monsters, goddesses, and wars, must now endure one final trial. Not on the sea. Not on foreign soil. But in his own house. Among his own people. At his own hearth. So he waits. The beggar. The king. The husband. The father. The avenger. Hidden. Silent. Patient. Until the moment comes when patience gives way to action. And thus the homecoming begins. Not with fanfare. Not with glory. But with disguise, with shadows, with whispered plans in the night. The king of Ithaca has returned. But the world does not yet know it. The night has ended. The dawn comes slowly over Ithaca. The halls of Odysseus stir once more with noise, laughter, arrogance, the sound of feasting. The suitors believe the day is theirs, as every day has been theirs. They do not know that this day will be different. They do not know that this day will be their last. Odysseus waits. Still in rags. Still bent as a beggar. Still watching. But the time of patience is closing. The time of reckoning has come. Penelope stands before the suitors. Her face is pale, her eyes shadowed by years of waiting. At last, she speaks of choice. At last, she declares, she will take a husband. The contest will be held. A test of skill, a test of strength, a test no man can pass. For the bow of Odysseus is heavy, its string hard to bend. No suitor has ever drawn it, no hand but his can send the arrow true. The suitors smile, for they do not yet understand. They boast. They swagger. One by one, they take the bow. And one by one, they fail. The wood creaks in their hands. Their faces strain. Their pride crumbles. But the bow does not bend. The string does not yield. And then, the beggar steps forward. The hall falls silent. The suitors laugh, mocking. The beggar. The ragged stranger. He dares to try. But Penelope, calm and quiet, gives her consent. Let him try. Let him take the bow. Odysseus lifts the weapon. His fingers know it. His hands caress the wood as if it were an old friend, a companion from the years of war. He turns it carefully, as though testing its memory. And then, with no strain, no effort, no faltering, he bends it. The string sings beneath his touch. The suitors fall silent. Their laughter dies. Their eyes widen. The beggar is no beggar. The stranger is no stranger. He sets the arrow. He draws. He releases. The shaft flies true. It whistles through the air, through the rings of the axes, and buries itself in wood. A perfect shot. A shot no man but Odysseus could make. And in that moment, the mask falls away. Odysseus straightens. The rags slip from his shoulders. The king stands revealed. His voice thunders through the hall. Dogs, you thought I would never return. You devoured my house. You courted my wife. You dishonored my name. But now, your day has come. Panic grips the hall. The suitors stagger back, searching for weapons, searching for escape. But the doors are locked. The nets are drawn tight. There is no way out. Telemachus stands at his father's side. Athena, unseen, fills the room with her presence. The bow is in Odysseus' hands. And justice is in his heart. The arrows fly. One by one, they strike. The proud suitors fall. Voices that mocked now cry in terror. Hands that once raised goblets now reach in vain for mercy. But no mercy comes. The years of insult, the years of violation, the years of betrayal. All are paid in blood. Eurymachus pleads. He blames Antinous. He begs for pardon. But Odysseus does not bend. The arrow answers, swift and final. The hall becomes a battlefield. Tables overturn. Wine runs like blood across the floor. Cries echo, then fade. And the bow sings again, and again, and again. At last, the arrows are gone. But the reckoning is not finished. Telemachus brings spears. The faithful herdsmen join. Steel flashes. The clash of bronze fills the hall. The suitors fall, one after another. No man escapes. No oath can save them. The reckoning is complete. And then, silence. The great hall lies in ruin. The air is heavy with smoke, with blood, with the weight of destiny fulfilled. Odysseus stands among the bodies. The bow hangs in his hand. The fire of vengeance burns low. The house is his again. The throne is his again. The name of Odysseus is restored. But the story does not end in slaughter. It does not end with vengeance alone. For now comes the greater test. The test of peace. The test of trust. The test of hearts long divided. Penelope waits. Penelope, the patient, the faithful, the silent. She has heard the cries, she has seen the ruin. But is this truly her husband? Is this truly Odysseus? Or is this another trick of the gods? She tests him. She speaks of their bed. She commands it to be moved. And Odysseus, indignant, cries out. That bed cannot be moved. He built it himself, built it around the living trunk of an olive tree, rooted deep in the earth. Only he could know its secret. And in that moment, Penelope knows. She sees him. She believes. The long years of waiting dissolve in tears. The king and queen embrace. The house is whole again. But the tale is not yet finished. For beyond the hall, beyond the marriage bed, beyond the palace walls, there are fathers, brothers, kin of the fallen suitors. And they will seek revenge. And blood calls for blood. The reckoning within the hall must give way to a reckoning beyond it. And only the gods can decide how the cycle will end. And so, the arrows rest. The bow is set aside. The hall lies silent. Odysseus has returned. Justice has been served. But peace, peace must still be won. The hall is silent now. The arrows no longer fly. The clash of bronze has ended. The cries of the suitors fade into memory. Only stillness remains. Stillness, and the weight of what has been done. Odysseus stands among the fallen. Around him, the once proud hall is marked by ruin. Tables overturned. Cups shattered. The smell of smoke and blood thick in the air. This was no feast. This was no celebration. This was judgment. This was the reckoning of a king long denied his throne. Telemachus is there, breathing heavily, the spear still in his hand. His eyes are wide, not yet accustomed to such violence. He has proven himself, yet he is still so young. The boy has stood beside his father. But he must now learn what it means to carry not just a weapon, but the memory of what weapons bring. The servants, loyal through the years, emerge slowly. They see the hall. They see the ruin. And though fear stirs within them, there is also relief. Their master has returned. The long shadow of the suitors is lifted. And in that relief, they bow their heads. They bow before their king. Odysseus does not smile. He does not rejoice. For his heart is not light. The weight of slaughter presses heavily upon him. Justice demanded blood. But justice, even when served, leaves scars behind. He looks at his hands. They are the same hands that once built ships. The same hands that once touched the cheeks of his infant son. The same hands that once reached for Penelope in love. Now, they are stained with vengeance. And Penelope. Penelope watches. She has tested him. She has seen him. She has embraced him once more. Her heart knows this is her husband. Yet her heart also knows he is changed. The years of war, the years of wandering, the years of trial. They have left their mark. The man she loved is here again. And yet, not the same. For how could he be the same? How could anyone return unchanged from Troy, from the sea, from the endless path of gods and monsters? And so, she does what she has always done. She waits. She listens. She endures. For if Odysseus is to be whole again, it will not be in a single night. Not in a single embrace. It will be in time. In patience. In the slow weaving of days and years. Like the loom she once sat at, unraveling each night, weaving again each morning. But outside. Outside, beyond the palace walls. The world has heard the cries. The world has seen the smoke. The fathers, the brothers, the sons of the suitors gather. And grief twists into rage. Blood calls for blood. And so the cycle threatens to continue. Odysseus knows. He has seen enough war to know how easily it spreads. One act demands another. And the chain grows longer. Until no one remembers who struck first. Or why the quarrel began. And here, in this moment, the gods intervene. Athena descends, her presence felt though not always seen. She has guided him across the sea. She has stood beside him in the hall. And now, she demands an end. Enough blood has been spilled. Enough vengeance has been taken. She speaks, and her voice is firm. She calls for peace. She calls for memory, not revenge. She calls for the healing of Ithaca, not the further tearing of its soil with endless graves. The families of the dead raise their weapons. Odysseus and his men raise theirs in turn. The moment hangs, heavy and sharp, like the pause before an arrow is loosed. And then Athena commands it to stop. A veil falls across their hearts. The rage ebbs. The hands that gripped the sword grow weary. The cries soften. The battle that might have been, does not come. Peace, at last, is forced upon them. Not by man, but by the will of the goddess. And so the land of Ithaca breathes again. The sea still laps against its shores. The olive trees still sway in the wind. And the smoke of the suitors' funeral pyres rises. Not as a call to war, but as the final chapter of vengeance closed. Odysseus, weary, walks the halls of his home. He touches the stones. Stones he once placed. Stones that have waited. Stones that remember. He has wandered for 20 years. He has seen cities burn. Seen comrades die. Seen gods both bless and curse. But now, at last, he sees his home again. Not as a dream. Not as a hope. But as a reality. The journey is over. The Odyssey is complete. And yet, the sea remains. The sea, endless and eternal. The sea that calls to all who have once crossed it. For the story of Odysseus does not end with blood or with peace. It lingers, like the waves against the shore. It lingers in memory. It lingers in song. It lingers in the hearts of those who tell it. Again and again. Through the long centuries. The Odyssey is not just the tale of one man. It is the tale of endurance. Of patience. Of loss, and of return. It is the reminder that even the longest night will give way to dawn. And even the longest journey can find its way home. Peace comes slowly to Ithaca. Memory lingers longer. But at last, the house of Odysseus is whole again. The story of Odysseus does not end in Ithaca. It does not end in the hall of his fathers. Nor in the embrace of Penelope. Nor even in the quiet peace that Athena has brought to his home. No. The story continues. It flows, like the tide that never rests. It stretches, like the sea that has no end. It lingers, like memory itself, quietly persistent, softly insistent. For the sea remembers. The sea remembers every ship that has sailed across it. Every wave that broke upon the bow. Every storm that threatened to engulf the oar. Every calm that lulled the soul to ease. The sea remembers Odysseus. It remembers the cleverness that saved him. The courage that carried him. The suffering that shaped him. Even now, the waves whisper his name. In the quiet hours of the night. In the moments between dreams. The sea calls to the wanderer. The hero who never truly stopped wandering. And memory. Memory is the true inheritance of the Odyssey. We remember his cunning. We remember the horse of Troy. The trick that brought a city low. We remember the night when wooden walls hid soldiers inside. Silent, waiting, ready to strike. We remember the victory. but also the cost. We remember his voice. Soft yet commanding, persuasive, melodic, and clever. We remember how he soothed allies, deceived enemies. How he spoke with wisdom and subtlety. Even in the face of danger. We remember his suffering. His tears upon Calypso's shore. His endless longing for home. His prayers to see Ithaca's smoke rise once more. His silent yearning to touch the soil of his kingdom. To breathe the air of the land that he was born to rule. The bards remembered, too. They carried his story from fire to fire. From hall to hall. From city to city. From generation to generation. When kings wished to hear of bravery, they spoke of Odysseus at Troy. When wanderers longed for hope, they spoke of Odysseus at sea. When lovers waited in silence, they spoke of Penelope, weaving and unweaving, waiting still, faithful, patient, enduring. The Odyssey was never just a tale. It was a mirror. A mirror for every soul who has struggled. For every heart that has waited. For every traveler who has dreamed of coming home. And so, the story spread. Across lands. Across seas. Across time itself. Through the mountains of Greece. Through the valleys of Rome. Through the halls of kings. Through the fires of poets. Through the whispers of the ancients. Each generation found something in Odysseus. Each generation sailed with him once more. Each generation remembered the trials of the sea. The cunning of the mind. The endurance of the heart. And the longing for home. And now, tonight, you, too, sail with him. Close your eyes. Feel the oars in your hands. Feel the gentle rise and fall of the waves beneath your vessel. The tide carries you forward. And the wind whispers softly in your ears. Each gust, each breeze, each sigh of the sea is a voice telling the story once more. You pass the lands of the lotus eaters, where sleep tempts the mind, where forgetfulness lingers. You resist, as Odysseus resisted, clinging to memory, clinging to home. You pass the caves of the Cyclopes, shadows looming, giants asleep, their single eyes closed to the world. You move silently past them. Clever, cautious, surviving. You hear the song of the Sirens. Sweet and irresistible. Promises of knowledge, of power, of pleasure. And yet you resist. Listening only to the wisdom of Odysseus' caution. Knowing that survival comes to those who remain mindful. Who stay true to their purpose. And you drift past Scylla and Charybdis. Monsters of rock and whirlpool. Symbols of the dangers that life itself holds. You cling to the memory of his guidance. The steadiness of his hand. The clarity of his mind. You sail past the island of Helios. Past the sacred cattle. Past the warnings of the gods. And learn, as Odysseus did, that some trials are not for cleverness alone, but for the endurance of the heart, for the discipline of restraint, for the patience to survive beyond desire. The years of wandering fade in your mind. You pass Ogygia, the Isle of Calypso, where comfort tempts, where pleasure threatens to halt your journey. And yet, you sail on. You sail on, drawn by the smoke of Ithaca, by the quiet yearning for home, by the hope that the journey may finally end. And Ithaca appears at last. Not in glory, not in triumph, but quietly, softly. As a home that has waited. As a land that remembers. As a place where a weary man may finally rest. The house of Odysseus rises before you. The halls echo with silence. Broken only by the memories of the past. The footsteps of the faithful. The whispers of gods. Penelope waits. Faithful, patient, enduring. And in that waiting, the cycle of suffering, of wandering, of loss, comes to a gentle close. But even in the quiet, the story endures. For the Odyssey is eternal. It flows like the sea. Endless, constant, patient. It lingers in song. It lingers in story. It lingers in memory. It lingers in the hearts of all who hear it. All who read it. All who sail with Odysseus in dreams. And now, in your dreams, you sail with him. Your breath becomes the tide. Your heartbeat becomes the rhythm of the oars. You glide past the dangers of the sea. Past the memories of war. Past the trials and triumphs. Until the shores of Ithaca rise before you. Safe, peaceful, quiet. The journey ends not in battle. Not in triumph. But in the gentle embrace of home. In the enduring memory of courage. In the quiet presence of endurance. The Odyssey is not just a story of one man. It is a story of humanity. Of longing. Of perseverance. Of the heart's unyielding desire to return, to remember, to endure. The sea remains. The waves still turn. The winds still sigh. And Odysseus sails still. In the hearts of all who dream of home. Rest now. The journey has ended. The waves rock you gently. The stars shine softly. The night is deep. And in this calm, you carry the story with you. The Odyssey. Endless. Eternal. And yours.